Welcome to another fun-filled Monday edition of Second City Sports. We're live in living color right here on Sports Soul Chicago, along with Miss Lakina McGee, which is she. I am Sydney Brown. Hey, that's me. You can follow yours surely on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
I keep forgetting to do the reversing. You follow my Kino McGee on the Twitter, X at Kino _ on the IG.
You remind me of the Bears coaching staff. We'll dig into that.
We'll get to that. Yes.
Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. And please subscribe to our podcast at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We are unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinions during our 2-hour start against what we call a sports talk radio show, you can always hit us up in the comment section by going to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions and comments in the comment section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. But if you decide to troll and or do something silly, dumb, or stupid, I'm giving Lakina full power to give you fools the Chase Claypool boot. But before we begin, we must remind you that you can also catch Sports Zone Chicago now available on Roku TV. That's right. So celebrate with the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. If you have a Roku television, just tap on that sports folder and download that Sports Zone Chicago app. If you don't have a Roku TV, you have some handheld devices laying around, iPhone, iPad, iTouch, your Chromebook, or your personal PC. Just go over to that Google Play Store and download that Roku TV app and access Sports Zone Chicago through that avenue. So no more excuses. Celebrate with the squad and get with the program. Sports Zone Chicago is now available on Roku TV. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Live and on demand.
Anytime, anywhere.
And you know we will provide. Ooh.
Yes, we will. Well, we'll do our best to try to provide here on Second City Sports. Of course, we got week 2 from the NFL, not the Bears, the best of week 2 from the NFL. Of course, studs and duds, college football, not a good showing for our local teams this week. A little bit of hope there on the Blackhawks side. Old school TV Monday and so much more. But Sid, unfortunately, we gotta start off with this.
Fields well protected. Heaves end zone. It's Claypool. He threaded it through. Touchdown, Chicago.
Double moves. He's all the way on the outside here. So he's going to press up. You're going to have Cole Kmet come out. He's going to break to the corner and then back to the inside. Good timing on the throw as that safety comes over. You see that flash right in front of Chase Claypool, but good concentration to finish that catch.
The last sparkling moment for Chase Claypool in the NFL was the touchdown in the final seconds against Tampa Bay when he was with Pittsburgh last year to win that game. It has been a long road to Baker Mayfield off play action on first down. Looking long into coverage, but he's got Evans who pushed off to get free. There is no flag. Mike Evans inside the 20, inside the 10. First down and goal.
And now Andrew Benintendi swinging a line drive.
We had a screen called, and number 7 made a good play. One-handed, he picked it one hand and took it back. I mean, he didn't have that far to return it, but caught a screen and made a play on it, picked it off and took it back. I mean, I didn't see every detail of the play. I saw Khalil open, and then I'm guessing he just reacted back. He felt screen and went back and of course picked it off. So, but I mean, in that situation it's tough because if you call a deeper pass, you don't want to drive back in the end zone and potential to take a safety. So, I think that's a tough spot. And
those highlights or lowlights, I guess you could say, were provided from folks at the Big Fox Network with Joe Davis and Daryl Moose Johnson, who should be in the Hall of Fame, by the way, but that's a whole different story for a whole different day. But unfortunately, the Bears, another stinker as they lose on the road at Tampa. Sid, I mean, jeez, I've kind of. We thought us and our girl Christine McElroy, KXRB, we do our picks every week, and we kind of figured that when the game kind of went as you expected, 27-17 loss to Tampa. The Bucs. I'm talking about the Bears. Justin Fields had 2 interceptions, going to pick 6. I was trying to find that clip of that pick 6, but I couldn't find that. But 2 interceptions, going to pick 6 by Shaq Barrett. We'll get to all that in a second. Baker Mayfield looked like Tom Brady. He had threw for 317 yards and a touchdown. And also Fields, another stat here, Fields was sacked 6 times. Let me say it again, 6 times. As our buddy Big Dave Watson from CHGO Bulls would say, his jersey got dirty, unfortunately, and Baker Mayfield was not sacked at all. He kind of looked like Tom Brady out there. I thought that was Tom Brady out there for a second, Sid. But let me go through here, and of course, the Bears have not won a game since October of last year. That's 12 straight losses, which is a franchise record. 5 straight losses by double digits. 4 straight losses to the Bucs in Tampa, and the 7 straight loss in those stupid orange jerseys. Sid, the floor is yours, my friends.
Shout out to our guy Jay Hood from ESPN 1000 here in Chicago. Hopefully we can get him on this program soon down the road. He had a post yesterday on his social media pages, in particular his IG. He's asked the Bears fans, give us your reasons why the Bears are 0-2. And I said this, and I quote, incompetent coaching, lack of confidence, and the inconsistencies of Justin Fields. Let me break down each one. The incompetent coaching, Lakina. We said this last week, and this happened yesterday. The game plan for the Green Bay Packers last week was terrible. This week, the first drive of the game looked good, but the lack of running game is costing this team. And Roschon Johnson, I don't know if you saw him in the second quarter, Lakina, he ran his tail off. We replaced Khalil Herbert in that second quarter for that package. But why didn't they go to him in the whole game? That's number one. Number two, the lack of confidence. Outside of that first offensive drive of the game for the Chicago Bears, Lakina, did you see any confidence with that Bears group? No, even though they were trailing by 3 points at halftime. Which means that your defense, you mentioned them giving up 25 points or more during this 12-game losing streak. Yes. Let me give you some numbers. 0 and 1. What do they mean? No quarterback sacks and 1 quarterback hit. I'll give you another number. 3. 3 times that I saw on the game film yesterday that it could have had a sack on Baker Mayfield. Like you said, he looked like Tom Brady, and the Bears could not take advantage of it. Number 3, Justin Fields. Now I'm part of the Justin Fields fan club. I want that brother to succeed here. But this is the second week in a row that he's thrown a pick 6. And in the clip that you played just a couple moments ago, what the hell was that? What the hell was that? You call a screenplay deep in your own territory, knowing that Tampa Bay is going to blitz your butt, and you decide to call that? I don't get it. That goes to Matt Eberflus and incomparable coaching. But for Justin Fields, he has to know better. And I know this is his 3rd year in the league, 2nd year in Luke Getsy's system, but you should know better than that. And early into the game, Lakina, when they set up, they had the field goal after they scored the touchdown to open the game. I believe it was 7-6, I believe it was, when Santos hit that field goal on that drive. Did you see who was open? Robert Tonyan was open in the end zone, but Justin Fields took the sack. I think, and I know that all quarterbacks have a mental clock in their head. When you get all that time to throw, when the pocket breaks down, you got to get rid of it and make something happen. I know he doesn't want to run all the time like he did last year, but something in your head has to say, let me get rid of this ball and make something happen. If I can't make anything happen within 2-3 seconds, just be smart and throw it away. Sometimes you have to take the sack, but not all the time you have to take the sack. So I know that he's still learning. I know many Bears fans don't want to hear that, but there's some of the criticisms that I have of Justin Fields right now. The blame pie goes all around.
It's one of those things where you're like, okay, I know some people want to call him a bust, other want to give him more time. I don't want to call him color, but some of those throws were decisions that he made. They were kind of color-esque. Throwing it up for grabs and hoping that someone caught it. And then instead of, holding the ball too long, and then you're running into Vita Vila, which is not the smartest thing to do, by the way. He had 1.5 sacks. But it's just like that old line. I know people want to say, well, maybe because Nate Diaz wasn't there. I get it, but they were already having issues even before that. So I think to say that, they did. Well, look, that whole O line, then guys started leaving, and everything else, and it's just unfortunate. I know Fields had a couple of fumbles, but there were a whole lot of things here. I mean, the defense really, like I said, you made Baker Mayfield look like you made Baker feel like Tom Brady out there. Of course, Mike Evans had 171 yards and a touchdown catch. I know you could probably say that should have been a push off on his part, but he was still wide open. So I don't know what else could he have done, and all the other things. Chris Godwin got his catches in, and also too the play calling itself. Sid, when you hear Levante David, who had a pretty solid showing himself, I think he had a sack. I think if he said that that sweep that was ended up being the go ahead touchdown to kind of seal the win for the Bucs, they knew it was coming.
Yeah,
it was like really, and then I think Shaq Barrett, who got that pick six, good for him. We talked about everybody, David Shield from CBS 10 in Tampa on Friday. Like they knew it was coming, and it's just like I don't know. There's a lot of blame to go around here. I don't want to call Fields a bust. I hope he succeeds too, but I'm like our buddies over at CHGO Bears. Hope we can get those guys on when they're not doing the show at the same time we're doing ours. That's why we haven't had them on yet. But they said, look, he can audible. Why is he audible and all that stuff? Like I said, it's just annoying. Like I said, you're gonna be facing a KC team that got better. We'll talk about that after the break, but the Bears could very well end up being 0-3 to start the season. And when you hear the comments of some of the guys on the squad, Flu's like, "Oh, we improved a lot from last week." Wait, is he Pedro Grifol in disguise? Like, seriously?
Good call, Lakina. Good call.
I'm serious. Like, what the heck? I mean, it's just like I don't know what else I can say. I'm done.
Speaking of that comment yesterday, I was going to bring that up. Have faith in us. We're improving. I saw some improvement yesterday. Okay, couple things. You gave up 38 points to Green Bay in Week 1. Okay, you gave up 27 to Tampa Bay. Okay, that's 11-point improvement. Okay, that's one thing. That's one thing you can improve on. Okay, got it. But on the positive side, DJ Moore, who I have on my fantasy team, by the way, but that's besides the point. He had 6 catches for 104 yards. He should have had a touchdown yesterday, but he had a good game. Cole Kmet, nice job, Luke Getz. Actually noticing that we have a starting tight end on our team that we paid big bucks for in the offseason. Cole Kmet had 4 catches for 38 yards. Unfortunately, Justin Fields didn't see the backup tight end, Robert Tonyan, in the second offensive drive of the game, which led to a field goal, but I digress. Lakina, here's the thing. I know that we say this every year, that the first 2 weeks of an NFL season is overreaction, but if you are a Bears fan, you have every right to pick apart, criticize, react, with logic sense, of course. But this thing has been going on for a long time. And under the Matt Eberflus era, this has been going on for too long. And we gave them a pass last year that they were cleaning house from the previous regime, the Matt Nagy regime. And we realized that what the situation was. But you can't blame this on Matt Nagy anymore. You cannot blame it on John Fox. You cannot blame it on, what was the other head coach, Mark Trestman. You can't blame that on those previous coaches anymore. Matt Eberflus, this is your mess to clean up. Ryan Pauls, I know you just got here, but this is your mess to clean up as well. And Luke Getsy, the offensive coordinator. Yes, you worked with Aaron Rodgers, but I don't give a damn about that anymore. This is your mess to clean up too. So all those people that I just mentioned in that Bears organization, on that coaching staff, and along with the players, they have to take a look at themselves long, hard in the mirror and be honest with themselves. Do you want this? Do you want to do the extra work to improve this football team? If you don't need to be here. And one more thing, Lakina, I know we got to break in a couple minutes, but Chase Claypool, the clip that you played, congratulations on him scoring the first touchdown of his Bears career, which should be a short Bears career. But just because you did that yesterday doesn't mean you're off the hook. You're not.
And I had no faith. I know people were saying, "Oh my God, they're going to come back." Like, no. And I figured that he had during that last drive, he had a penalty before that. It was OPI. I know some people thought that should have been, that was kind of like iffy there. But, look, they rarely call that. But, you don't get caught doing it. Then after that, it was, Fields, threw it, ill-advised and, threw the interception to Barrett that ended up, sealing that victory for the Bucs. And look, I kind of feel like this is sort of one of those, games where you don't want to say, I know people actually had this team winning 11, 12 games, which I tried to tell folks, you guys are nuts if you think this team's going to win 11 or 12 games. And I know there were some reports that came out that, some of the Bears, during the preseason, some of the Bears, players were not happy that they sat out. I mean, you really can't use it as an excuse now because, unfortunately, know your personnel. This team's not good enough. It's that simple. I don't want to say it's over after 2 games, but it's not looking good at this point.
And which tells me that head coach Matt Eberflus doesn't really have a pulse on this team. Does he really have control of that locker room? Does he? After hearing that, the answer is no. And one more thing before we break, Lakina. And I didn't watch the Fox postgame show yesterday. I didn't watch any of the postgame shows for National Logie yesterday because there were other games that were going on. We'll review those after the break. But did you see the clip of the Fox guys back in L.A. With Rob Gronkowski? He's filling in for Jimmy Johnson if they have regional action. They made fun of the Bears yesterday for like 5 seconds, and all of them started laughing. They moved on. That should tell you something where the Bears are in the national conscience of the National Football League right now. And it's embarrassing if you're a Bears fan.
And all the folks that took Justin Fields for MVP, they're looking pretty silly right now at this point. But again, I'm getting. I know you're getting angry. I know I am too. So let's take a break and we'll talk some good NFL football, some great games that kind of came across here, including some surprises. We did better in our picks. So I'll provide an update on that and a whole lot more. Still including our studs and duds. Lakina McGee, Sydney Brown, Second City Sports on Sports of Chicago. We go around the league, including studs and duds, coming up after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I needed for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class. These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to the Monday edition of Second City Sports. We're live in the living color right here on Sports Soul Chicago. I'm Sid Deslakina. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can find my Keenan McGee on the Twitter, X, and Keenan's going to be in the IG.
We have less than 85 minutes left or so in this extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show. You have any questions or comments for us, especially about yesterday's Bears loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you can go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comments section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you.
All right, Sid, let's go around the league because I'm sick of talking about the Bears. Let's start in upstate New York in Buffalo as Buffalo in their home opener bouncing back from that loss last week to the Jets, a heartbreaker. They rebound just fine against the Raiders. The Raiders, Las Vegas 38-10. Josh Allen had 3 touchdown passes, threw for 274 yards, and he wasn't the leading rusher. I know that made Sid happy. Yay! James Cook rushed for 123 yards, led the way there among that. Gabe Davis, 92 yards and a touchdown catch. Devontae Adams, unfortunately for the Raiders, had to leave, I think early, like late in the third, I think, due to the concussion protocol. So we'll see if he's okay for next week. Jimmy G had 2 interceptions. So it's kind of a good, like, all-around kind of get-right game for the Bills.
Yeah, as we said on Friday, the Bills shouldn't have had any problem with the Raiders. And that's exactly what happened yesterday. Now, you mentioned Jared Cook, James Cook, I should say. He's a younger brother of New York Jets running back Dalvin Cook. Note to Bills head coach Sean McDermott. Give the balls to your running back 25 times a game. Let them gain over 100 yards. You'll save Josh Allen, and he'll be better off for it. I've been saying that for the last 3 years, Lakina. Finally, something got through his head yesterday. So, as you mentioned, the Buffalo Bills take care of business. I don't think Josh Allen had a turnover. Also, he had a touchdown pass to backup tight end Dawson Knox. So, when Josh Allen plays within himself and not try to force the issue like he did last week and let the actual running backs run for some yards, the Buffalo Bills are unstoppable, and that's what we saw yesterday.
Yeah, he completed at least 80% of his passes. That's the most before turning 30. He has 5 career games now with those types of stats. And Josh Jacobs, unfortunately, not so much. He only had -2 rushing yards and 9 carries. And that's the first time since the 1970 merger that a reigning rushing champion finished the game with negative rushing yards. So, yeah, not good for that one, but it was just brutal, but a nice win for the Raiders. Going to the AFC North here, of course, you got the Ravens on the road beating the Bengals 27-24. I think this is the first time, in like 4 meetings that the Ravens beat the Bengals. Of course, we always saw it happen in that wild card game back in January. That was a tough loss for them. Lamar Jackson, 2 touchdown passes, 237 yards. Gus Edwards had 62 rushing yards. And Nelson Aguilar had his first touchdown catch as a Raven, so nice stat for him. On the flip side for Joe Burrow, 222 yards, 2 touchdowns, but an interception too. So it was actually the Ravens defense that kind of was pivotal there, especially late. I had this game via this computer screen. Of course, Andrew Catalan, Tiki Barber, and Matt Ryan had the call of this game, which is actually ended up being a pretty entertaining game. And the score was actually better than I thought. I thought it was going to be like a 9, 6, 12 to 10 type of pace, but it ended up being a high-scoring game.
You mentioned about the Bengals offense, which did look better on paper yesterday, but it's their defense that's been struggling to come out the gates. They gave up 24 points at Cleveland last week. They gave up 24 points again in their home opener. Like you mentioned, the Baltimore Ravens, they looked a little bit better yesterday than last week when they beat the Houston Texans. The Ravens scored in every quarter of the game yesterday. And of course, the second quarter only had 6 points. But Lamar Jackson looked good. I know OBJ, Odell Beckham Jr., has an ankle injury. Hopefully he's okay. But, you know that identity of that Ravens offense. When you run the ball like that, like Gus Edwards is getting ready to do. You saw what he did yesterday. If they can keep feeding him the ball, it makes Lamar Jackson's game that much better. So congratulations to the Ravens on getting a tough win on the road.
Yeah, if you saw John Harbaugh after that game was over, he was fired up. Like, he's usually fired up.
Yeah.
He was very fired up. He was like, yeah, he was like, you saw his presser, he was very fired up. Burrow, he's now 1-7 his team's first 2 games of a season in his career. That's the most he has. He has 12 touchdowns and 5 interceptions while averaging just 5.8 yards per attempt. So I don't know, but we'll see if they can get together and figure things out here. Let's go to Jacksonville, where it was actually we had this game here in Chicago, and the Chiefs looks like they're starting to slowly become like the Chiefs that we're used to seeing. 17-9 against 17-9 against the Jaguars on the road, 306 yards and 2 touchdowns. Happy birthday to Matt Mahomes, by the way. He just turned 26. 2 touchdowns and an interception. Trevor Lawrence on the flip side had 216 yards. And Isaiah Pacheco, thank you, has 17 rushing lead the way there, while Travis Etienne Jr. only had 40 yards rushing and 12 carries. So Lawrence was sacked 4 times. I think one of those sacks was by Mr. Chris Jones, if I'm not mistaken, Sid. So what do you think about? I know you saw a little bit of this game because we got this game here in Chicago.
Yeah, the Jacksonville offense was the problem yesterday. Of course, Kansas City, they really didn't play their best either, but they escaped Jacksonville with a tough win on the road. The only offensive standout for the Jaguars was Christian Kirk, 11 catches for 110 yards. You mentioned Patrick Mahomes. I didn't think he looked that great either, even though he had 2 touchdown passes. One of them was to Travis Kelce. He also threw a pick. But Kansas City did well enough to win. You remember last week, Lakina, we talked to people want to stick a fork in them because they lost to Detroit Lions at home. And remember, they were out Chris Jones, they were out Travis Kelce. So they're starting to get some of their key guys back, and slowly but surely they're going to be one of the top teams, if healthy, standing at the end of the year. Right now it's just early on in the process, and they took care of business yesterday.
And we'll see what ultimately killed the Jaguars in some of those drives, because they had multiple chances to score pressing and win this game. So we'll get to that. That's probably. Let's go to Tennessee. Let's go to Nashville as the Titans, with a field goal in overtime, they beat the Chargers 27-24. Ryan Tannehill had a touchdown. Not so okay short for him, 246 yards. Derrick Henry, a little not too much, but we saw a little bit of Derrick Henry, 80 yards rushing and a touchdown. On the flip side for the Chargers, Justin Herbert had 2 touchdown passes. The defense did sack Tannehill 5 times, but they just they gave him a lot of big plays, and that was a problem for the Chargers defense last year. And I don't want to say that Brandon Staley's on the hot seat, but there's too much talent in that Chargers squad. Well, I'll get to that in my sets and does, but there's too much talent in that Chargers squad for them to be 0-2. It just is.
Yeah. Also, to the Chargers miss Austin Eckler yesterday, and which could have helped. And you mentioned the Chargers defense up front did do his job, but even though I did pick the Chargers to win this game, I was afraid that down the stretch, usually with young teams, they're not that young, but with young teams come down the stretch, you get nervous, especially crunch time. You don't know what to do. You go bypass experiences of what happened before. You have that negative mindset. Oh, this happened before. This is going to happen again. That's what you saw in the Chargers yesterday. Now, on the flip side, on their offense, Keenan Allen, was nice for him to show up. 8 catches, 111 yards, and 2 touchdowns, which should have been enough. But like you said, Lakina, during the crucial moments of the game, that Chargers defense was nowhere to be found. And the Tennessee Titans, even though they don't wow you offensively, they know what to do when the game is close.
Yeah, Vrabel's guys know how to grind it out. So, again, a lot of questions down there in Los Angeles. So we'll see. Down in Atlanta, it wasn't too hot down there yesterday, but the Falcons edged out the Packers 25-24. Desmond Ridder had 237 yards and a touchdown pass and an interception. Jordan Love actually looked pretty good, 151 yards and 3 touchdowns. It was really more, and of course, we saw the ending of this game here in Chicago after that Bears Bucks game was over with. It was really their defense that kind of ultimately let them down. A.J. Dillon did have a solid showing there, but no Aaron Jones. I think Christian Watson was still out. So unfortunately for them, I mean, it just wasn't very good. Even though Jaden Reed did have 2 touchdown catches, 2 of those 3 touchdown catches from Jordan Love, it was really their defense that they just couldn't do enough to kind of like make the big plays late to kind of hold off the Falcons.
Yeah, for that Falcons offense, it was nice to see Drake London show up, 6 catches, 67 yards, and a touchdown. Hopefully they can use their tight end, Kyle Pitts, because he's one of the best young tight ends in the game. He hasn't had a touchdown pass yet this year for the Falcons, but hopefully it's coming soon. It's all about Bijan Robinson, their rookie running back out of Texas. He had 19 carries for 124 yards. That was a big difference yesterday as the Falcons escaped with a 1-point win. You mentioned that the Packers missed Aaron Jones. You saw that yesterday. The Falcons had their star running back. That was the difference in the game, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that was a huge difference there. So last second field by Yoho, that ended up still in the game for the Falcons. Let's go to probably one of the biggest games, and they actually sent Fox actually sent Kevin Burkhardt and Greg Olsen in the game for this game. They were supposed to have done. They were supposed to have been going to Bears and Bucks, but I'm sure they saw the Bears performance and said, no, let's do the Seahawks Lions. And it said actually ended up being one of the games of the day. Overtime, 37-31. Tyler Lockett, I should say, I said, see ya, as he got a touchdown catch from Geno Smith. This is after Geno Smith actually took a sack that that could have won the game ultimately, but they were able to bounce back from that. 2 touchdown passes for him. Kenneth Walker had 2 rushing touchdowns. Jared Goff had 3 touchdown passes, but he had an interception, which actually broke a streak. He had 383 pass attempts without an interception. And of course, that was the 3rd most pass attempts without an interception in NFL history. But unfortunately, that kind of stalled some of the drives there, and actually ended up being a kind of a seesaw game. But the Seahawks were able to pull it out in overtime.
Yeah, for the Lions, David Montgomery, former Chicago Bear, had 16 carries and a touchdown off of 67 yards rushing. Amon-Ra St. Brown for the Lions had 6 catches for 102 yards, but it was Josh Reynolds who had a touchdown early in the game. You kind of like to see some of those other weapons outside of St. Brown step up for the Lions. They did that yesterday, but Lakina, on that Tyler Lockett touchdown in overtime, Aiden Hutchinson was held very obviously, but the referees didn't call it. I know that sometimes these officials swallow their whistles, and you want to let the players decide it. But there was an obvious hold yesterday, and that's what sprung Geno Smith to throw that game-winning touchdown pass in overtime. I know Greg Olsen mentioned it on the broadcast yesterday that I know Lions fans are going to get upset at it, and rightfully so. But the Lions had their chances to win the game in regulation. They didn't do it, but there was an obvious hold. I forgot the offensive lineman for the Seattle, but he held Aiden Hutchinson from the Lions, and that was an obvious call that the referee should have made, but they didn't do it. Yeah, but sometimes you got to play through these things, in order to win.
Yeah, you don't want to end up that being sort of the thing. And I know Hudson was not very happy afterwards, so he was actually, we saw him arguing with the refs. He was saying, "Look, the guy held me," so I don't know why they didn't. But look, the Lions had their shot to put this game away in regulation. They were actually up, I think, by like 10 points or something like that. But they were able to hang on, so it never should have gone to that point. So it is what it is with that. But a nice win for Seattle, a nice bounce back win for them. Last noon game here in the AAC South, you got the Colts beating the Texans 31-20. Gardner Minshew had a chip in for Anthony Richardson, who suffered a concussion. He threw for 171 yards and a touchdown. Zach Moss had a touchdown catch. Of course, this after Richardson actually, had 2 rushing touchdowns. On the flip side, C.J. Stroud had 2 touchdown passes for 384 yards in total. Unfortunately, Stroud was sacked 6 times, so the Colts defense did their job. So nice little win for them to get their first win of the season.
Yeah, congratulations to the Colts despite missing Anthony Richardson. As you mentioned, they started rookie quarterback. On the flip side for Houston, Damian Pierce was nowhere to be found on the stat sheet, but Nick Collins, the rookie wide receiver, had 7 catches, 146 yards, and a touchdown. As we said, Lakina, I think this Houston, Texas team is going to get better as the year goes on, and C.J. Stroud is taking his lumps right now. But even though some of that was in garbage time yesterday, you saw some improvements from the young quarterback. So Texans fans, I know it's been a while, since you had a franchise quarterback, but I think C.J. Stroud will be okay. Just got to get Damian Pierce going and keep up with that connection between Stroud and Nico Collins. Offensively, I think you'll be okay. Defensively, I know they didn't have a good showing yesterday, but it's a young defense. It's going to grow. But, the Texans, I don't think they're far off as far as being a playoff team. Not this year, but in the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, they got some players there for the Texans. D'Amico Ryan is a former defensive end himself, so of course he's going to be on the mindset of that. But yeah, but a nice win, for the Colts. Of course, we just actually looked good before we got the concussion, so hopefully he'll be able to return next week. Gardner Minshew actually did pretty well. It kind of kept everything on the rails for them. Now going into the afternoon games, the Giants were down 28-0 at Arizona. They came back and won at 31-28. I know Giants fans were already like, yahoo! It's like their biggest comeback in the Super Bowl era. Woohoo! Daniel Jones had 2 touchdown passes for 321 yards. So before he got hurt, unfortunately, he's going to be gone for a while. With I think it's an ankle. Oh no, it's a knee injury. Of course, but I mean, it's just like you're down 28-0 to a team that's clearly tanking, and I can tell that someone probably told the Cardinals in the locker room at halftime, like, okay, y'all supposed to say, what are y'all doing? So if you're a Giants fan, this should not make you feel better.
Yeah, as you mentioned, I saw some of that game via NFL Red Zone, and you could tell coming out of the game that sometimes teams play down to the competition. That's why I sensed that a little bit with the New York Giants in that first half. And like you say, I don't know about what Giants head coach Brian Daboll said in that locker room, but wherever he said and or did or didn't do, the Giants woke up in that second half, 14 points in the third quarter, 17 in the fourth. And like you said, my heart goes out to Saquon Barkley. Hopefully he's going to be okay, but he makes that offense go. Everybody talks about Daniel Jones and rightfully so, but it's Saquon Barkley that completes that tandem for the Giants offense. Yes, they picked up tight end Darren Waller in the offseason, and he's going to make a difference. But without Saquon Barkley now, this is going to be a real tough challenge for the New York Giants going forward. Congratulations to them on the win yesterday, but without Saquon Barkley for how many weeks, it's going to be real tough for them because their schedule gets tougher from here on out.
Yes, it could get worse for the Giants, so we'll see what happens with that. Now going to the NFC West, I actually watched this game on the computer here, 30-23 with the 49ers over the Rams. Brock Purdy had 206 yards, no touchdowns. Christian McCaffrey had 116 yards and a touchdown. Deebo Samuel, Mr. Do-It-All, had a rushing touchdown as well. On the flip side for the Rams, 370 yards, a touchdown, and 2 interceptions from Matt Stafford. Kyron Williams, 52 yards with 14 carries and a touchdown there. But like I said, it was ultimately the 49ers defense. I think, look, we knew there was going to be a close game. These two are NFC West foes, so we figured there was going to be a close game. And in this case, for the 49ers, they were able to kind of pull it out again.
Yeah, shout out to Puka Nacua for the Los Angeles Rams. He's filling in for the injured Cooper Kupp. He had 15 catches for 147 yards yesterday, as you mentioned, the Rams lose a close one. But Christian McCaffrey was what makes the injured go for the San Francisco running game. He had 20 carries, 116 yards, and 1 dazzling rushing touchdown. Lakina, I watched some of that game too. The 49ers defense, they're, as of right now, I know it's a couple of weeks into the season, but they're a suspect to the run, and they're going to have to shore that up if they want to go back to the Super Bowl. For the Rams, no one expected them what they did last week to Seattle. Lakina, they did the same game plan yesterday as far as running the ball, but Matthew Stafford and crew got more weapons involved, but that crucial interception in the fourth quarter that's what cost the Rams the game.
Yeah, of course. You'll go back to Puka Nacua for a second. He comes the first player in NFL history to have 10 receptions, 100 receiving yards in each of his first 2 career games. So Sean McVay has a pretty interesting decision to make once Cooper Kupp does come back. But that's actually not a bad problem to have, I guess. So we'll see. CBS's Game of the Week, if I can get this thing to cooperate with me here. As you listen to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, Lakina McGee, Sydney Brown with you as we're recapping week 2 of the NFL slate here as the Cowboys another dominating performance, beating the New York Jets 30-10. Dak Prescott had 2 touchdown passes with 255 yards, I should say. But once again, it was the defense that was the story here. They intercepted Zach Wilson 3 times, and CeeDee Lamb each had excuse me, Trevon Diggs, Malik Hooker each had an interception. So it was really kind of like the defense once again that kind of did all that. They've scored 70 points and allowed just 10 so far through 2 games. The Cowboys have that. They're the 15 in the Super Bowl era to score that and allow 10 or fewer in the first 2 games. The 2019 Patriots, 1970 Lions, 1967 then Oakland Raiders, and of course the then 1960s Houston Oilers. So they're joining pretty good company there. Now look, are they the best team in the league right now? Yes. Are they perhaps? Will this be the case after in about a month? We'll see. But what do you think about this game yesterday?
Well, Dak Prescott, as you mentioned, he didn't have to do too much yesterday, even though his numbers did improve from last week. When you have a defense that plays like that, it makes your life that much easier. And you saw that yesterday with that Cowboys offense. Also, Tony Pollard ran the ball 25 times with 72 yards. And congratulations to Luke Shoemaker. His first NFL catch was a touchdown, their rookie tight end. And so it was an all-around good day for the Cowboys. But like you say, can they sustain this? That's been their Achilles heel in years past. We'll see. Like you say, as the schedule gets tougher as the season goes along. But yesterday, they did what they had to do, of course, with the Jets not having Aaron Rodgers for the entire season due to Achilles injury.
Yeah, so that's going to be very tough. We'll see. I know Green is going to do. We're going to be doing a well-being checks on Greeny for the rest of the season, but we'll see what happens there. Now, another game that's kind of expected to end up being the game of the week. Our buddy Spiro Diaz had to call this game for CBS. I actually switched this game once that Jets Cowboys game was a laugher. The Commanders held off the Broncos 35-33. That's after I think what they were down. I believe the Broncos down by I think as many as they were up by down by like what 14 like
18
points or something like that. Thank you. And of course they will score all that, and of course the Commanders had a great comeback. Sam Howell had 299 yards and 2 touchdowns. Brian Robinson Jr. had 2 rushing touchdowns for them, and a Hail Mary had by Russell Wilson. That of course forced it. Of course they needed a 2-point conversion. They weren't able to do that. So now the Commanders are 2-0, and it was actually a shout out to Ron Rivera. This is his 100 career win. Of course, I think he joins. I think he's the 18th coach to join 100 win, her 100 career win mark. So congrats to him. But yeah, it ended up being a pretty interesting game.
Yeah, Sam Howell didn't look too bad either, Lakina. He looked better than he did last week against Arizona. Also, too, the Commanders' defense showed up as well, making life difficult for Russell Wilson during the middle part of the game, even though Wilson did end up passing for 308 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a pick. But Sam Howell, could he be that top 10 quarterback, at least for this year as the season goes on? We'll see. It's very early, but the Washington Commanders took advantage of that weak secondary of the Denver Broncos, and that's how they got back in the game. You mentioned about Brian Robinson Jr., and they can run the ball with him and Gibson. This team could maybe be that surprise team in the NFC. It's still a long way to go, but they're off to a good start with 2-0. They almost blew that game yesterday. I thought that Denver was going to tie it to go into overtime, but wherever that play call was on that 2-point conversion, that was bad.
Yeah, that was awful, and I saw a little bit of that. That was like a bad. I don't know what they were going with that, but I don't know. But yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, Terry McLaurin had a touchdown catch, only 54 receiving yards, I should say. So,
that was a heck of a catch on 2 defenders.
Yeah, that was a heck of a catch there. Probably one of the catches of the day. And look, Marvin Mims, had 113 yards and a touchdown catch. I mean, I was a little surprised that they didn't go to him with a 2-point conversion, but what I'm sure, but whatever. So that was definitely a choice there, but but look, a good win for Washington. Look, that could be a tie. That could be end up coming down to tiebreaker. So we'll see if that ends up being the case there. The Sunday night game. I mean, the Dolphins held off the Patriots 24-17, but it kind of felt like they were down. I'm talking about the Patriots. Were down like even like more than that. Raheem Mostert had 2 rushing touchdowns, 121 yards. Tua had 249 yards, a touchdown and an interception. Mac Jones on the other side had 231 yards and a touchdown, interception, but he was sacked 4 times, so that didn't really help the Patriots in that aspect. But what do you think about the Dolphins? And they're looking really good. Like I said, I'm not going to seriously say they're the best team in the AFC, but they looked pretty good.
Yeah, Tua Tagovailoa had a decent game, 249 yards passing with a touchdown and an interception. Like I said, Tyreek Hill, we knew he was going to come back down to earth, which he did a little bit. But it was all about the running game for the Dolphins, as you mentioned, with Raheem Mostert with 121 yards and 2 scores. But did you check out that play at the end of the game, Lakina? I think it was Gesicki, the backup tight end, trying to flip it over to the offensive lineman. He still came up short, and that was that. I know that was Coach Bill Belichick, or Belichick, as we call him on this show, specialty, but it did not pay off at the end with that lateral.
Yeah, that was not good. He was just short of the goal. I know people thought that maybe he did get it, but no, his knee was down just as you were getting it. So it was. Yeah, right. It was just like not good. But look, Mike McDaniel has that team playing really well. I know they don't have Jalen Ramsey right now, so the defense is a little bit suspect, but they looked okay. I mean, look, I'm not going to sit here and say that they're best in the AFC, but I think they're kind of like right there. And we'll see. Their schedule's going to get tougher as the weeks go on. So we'll see.
Yeah, we will see. All right, Lakina, before we we'll give our studs and duds right now for the games that happened yesterday. I'll give my 3 studs right now. The first stud was wide receiver for the Los Angeles Rams, Puka Nacua. He had 15 catches and 147 yards in a loss for the Rams to the 49ers. My second stud will be Brian Robinson Jr. for the Washington Commanders, 87 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns as the Commanders hold out the Broncos 35-33. And my number 1 stud, it will be Bijan Robinson, the rookie running back for the Atlanta Falcons out of Texas, 19 carries, 124 yards as the Atlanta Falcons hold off the Green Bay Packers 25-24 to go 2-0 on the year.
Sounds good. My 3 studs. I'm gonna go a little further back, to the Thursday game with the Eagles beating the Vikings. We didn't get mentioned, had some messages. 175 rushing yards for DeAndre Swift. That's the 6th most by a player in either their first or second game with the new team. As he just signed with the Eagles in the offseason NFL history. He recorded just 3 rushing yards prior to that in week 1. So want to give him a little bit of a shout out here. The Dallas defense, I mean, of course, for obvious reasons. And my other stud, I mean, I'll say Anthony Richardson before we got, he was not out of the game with the concussion. And I guess my bonus stud, Baker Mayfield. He actually looked, like I said, I don't know if he'll be able to keep this up, but the Bears defense made him look like Tom Brady. So, he actually looked really good. So, I'm giving him my bonus stud.
All right, my 3 duds are as follows. The Cincinnati Bengals defense giving up a total of 48 points in the first 2 games. The Los Angeles Chargers will give that second dud, especially their secondary. And my 3rd dud, it will be the referee who refused to call the holding penalty on the Seattle Seahawks when Aiden Hutchinson was trying to chase down Geno Smith in overtime, which led to the game-winning touchdown catch by Tyler Lockett.
Okay, well, I'm going to do my duds real quick. Jawan Taylor, if that name doesn't sound familiar, he is I believe he's a defensive end. Well, I think he's the O lineman for the Chiefs. I think he had like 6 penalties by himself. Luckily, that didn't really affect him in the game against the Jaguars. But come on, dude, really be a little more disciplined. I'm sure Andy Reid gave him a little bit of a talking to after that game. I'm just going on a limb there. I'll say Arizona. I mean, look, well, what effort in the second half? And I know you guys are tanking, but at least look like you have an effort. I mean, you're up 28-0. At least put up a little bit of a fight. So, you could have at least snuck you a game, but whatever. You took the Chargers as one of my duds. Shoot, I don't want to give it to the Bears because they're not worth it. No, they're not. I guess the Packers. I mean, because I guess we thought that maybe they had multiple chances to try to win that game. The Packers defense gave up too many big plays late, so that kind of killed them there.
Yep. And just a reminder, 2 games tonight on ESPN and ABC for Monday Night Football. Tonight at 6:15 p.m. Central Standard Time is the New Orleans Saints at the Carolina Panthers. It's the rookie home debut of Panthers quarterback Bryce Young. At 7:15 on ABC and ESPN Plus, it's the Cleveland Browns visiting Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers.
And I believe that Saints Panthers game is getting the Manicast treatment. I think is going to be simulcast on ESPN2 as well.
Yes.
So so it also too is they're going to overlap. So And of course, Chris Fowles is familiar with Bryce Young. He called a lot of his games when he was at Alabama. So that should be a fun one there. And it should be an interesting one here in the AFC North with the Browns and the Steelers. Should be fun. Both games should be interesting.
Yep. We'll see what happens there tonight. All right, hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 straight ahead as you listen to the Monday edition of Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. We have to review the Week 3 action in college football. Prime time goes 3-0, but it comes with a cost. And we have to discuss the local teams. Do we have to in college football? We have to. I guess we have to. And we have some other sports media news nuggets and a whole lot more baseball. Are the Cubs done? Are the Cubs done as far as playoffs? And we'll hit you up with Old School TV Monday. Then a whole lot more as you listening to Second City Sports, the Monday edition. I'm Sid, that's Lakina. You're listening to Sports Zone Chicago.
No, I don't know, though. I'm scared. I mean, you're
Do you know that you're in my lane? No, not at all. Are you not paying attention? Are you texting? I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6. It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention. I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Tom Brady, the director of DODEA. September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. The simple act of reaching out and caring for those in our communities is something we all can do. Just being there for someone you care about can be a tremendous first step in getting them access to confidential resources and support that they need. It only takes one person and one small act and 1 minute to make a difference. Let's make a difference.
Move it!
Many will hear the calling. Few will earn the title. United States Marine. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports, the Monday edition. We're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid, that's Lakina. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80, that's SIDKID80, SIDKID80.
You can follow my Keenan McGee on the Twitter, X at Keenan again, the IG.
And we have less than 50 minutes left for this extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show. If you have any questions or comments for us, you can always go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comments section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. And just a daily reminder, you can also catch Sports Zone Chicago now available on Roku TV.
All right, so week 3 of college football, I should say, is in the books, and And there were some very interesting results, to say the least. I know we'll get this. Let's just get this out the way. Of course, Colorado edged up. It was a late game. It got big raise for ESPN. Colorado held off Colorado State in overtime. And look, I mean, 43-35 in double overtime. It ended up, probably ended up being one of the games of the week. Remember, Colorado was actually they were favored by like 27 points or something. So just kind of say that, the people there were storming the field. I'm like, are you seriously? Okay, you beat your state rival, I get it, but you guys haven't played in all the time. You started just playing each other about a decade ago, so a little bit on sort of unorthodox or orthodox there. But look, Shedeur Sanders, give him all the credit for that comeback. 348 yards, 4 TDs. Dylan Edwards had 57 rushing yards from that. Xavier Weaver had a touchdown catch. Michael Harrison had 2 TDs, including the game winner there in overtime. On the flip side, Brayton Fowler, Nicolasi had 367 yards and 3 touchdowns. Well, unfortunately, 3 interceptions. Look, Colorado State had multiple chances to put this game away. They were up by 10. They, some people would say they should have went for it on play before that, near midfield. But I can understand why they did that. They pinned the Buffs in their own territory on the 2, so I can understand them doing that. But from what I gathered, Fowler, Nicolasi had wanted to go for 2 when they scored. Jay Norville said no, and look what happened. So, look, they have multiple chances to put this game away. Of course, give CU all the credit in the world, but Colorado State should have put this game away, and they had their chance to win it themselves. Multiple times.
Couple things here, Lakina. I did see the last 45 minutes of the big new Saturday kickoff show prior to that game on Saturday. Of course, Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, was on that show, hyping up the crowd. I saw some clips of him. He was on ESPN's College Game Day. They were there as well in Boulder, Colorado. I think the reason why that Colorado got to that tough start because they were buying into the hype of what Jay Norville said. We talked about it last week, Lakina, about him with the sunglasses, foolishness, and everything. But I think that Colorado started to buy the hype a little bit, and you know that your players emulate the personalities of your head coach, and that's what happened on Saturday. And you mentioned about Shedeur Sanders. He did have his first turnover of the season, but you mentioned with that punt, that punt which put the Colorado Buffaloes at their own 2-yard line with under 3 minutes left to go in the game. That's where I thought Shedeur Sanders grew up, because let's be honest here, Colorado hasn't been tested like that so far this year. Everything's been really going their way. It was a back and forth affair with TCU to open the season. Of course, Nebraska, they woke up in the second half, but they were really in a dogfight against Colorado State, and they showed their mettle in which they won the games you mentioned in overtime. Number 2, Travis Hunter, that hit by number 11, whoever the hell that was for Colorado. He should have been kicked out the game because that was a dirty, cheap hit, and it was totally uncalled for. And there's no place in football, no matter what level, for that. That was just cheap. And you could tell that the Colorado State Rams players had a chip on their shoulder to start the game, which I thought affected the Colorado Buffaloes tremendously in that first half, but they woke up in the second half. You saw what happened after that. And number 2, that defensive end for the Rams, Kamara, he had a great game, but he had an ugly hit on Shedeur Sanders, and he got kicked out the game, which I agreed with the call there. But if you're going to kick Kamara out the game, you should have kicked number 11 from Colorado State out the game early for that dirty hit on Travis Hunter.
Yeah, they play Oregon. I'm talking about Colorado. They play Oregon next week, so we'll see, if they're for real. And look, Dan Lynn will make sure his guys are ready, and we'll talk about that in a second. And look, as far as the penalties, look, the targeting rule is look. I get why they have the targeting rule, but it needs to be revisited. Mm-hmm. No one should get kicked out of the game. Give them the 15 yards. Do like in soccer. Do like a red, yellow card or red card. Maybe do like a 3-strike thing or something, because that whole thing needs to be revisited. So, like I said, let's we'll move on here. Since we got other college football games, Georgia, a little bit of trouble with South Carolina, 24-14. Shane Bieber might have made a little bit of a boo-boo there, saying that they dominated South Carolina, and they did. But I guess Kirby Smart.
In the second half, they did.
Well, yeah, they did, but I think look, his dad didn't, Frank didn't do that too much. I'm sure his dad probably gave him a little call after the game, like, dude, you should not have done that. Spencer Rattler had 258 yards and a touchdown, but those 2 interceptions, in the second half, that kind of got them kicking into gear there. On the flip side for Georgia, Carson Beck had 269 yards, and Dejon Edwards had 118 yards and a touchdown. So it was really sort of like the defense kind of kicked into gear for Georgia, and look, they were able to pull it out.
And also it's a running game too for the Georgia Bulldogs, as you mentioned, that really carried the day because Georgia scored 21 and 24 points in that second half. I did watch a little bit of that game, Lakina. Be proud of me. But South Carolina, they did what they needed to do in the first half. They were aggressive defensively, and Spencer Rattler had a couple of great throws in that first half, but that Georgia defense made adjustments at halftime, and you saw Spencer Rattler. I think he barely overthrew just for 100 yards in that second half because he was all world in the first half. But as I mentioned, the Georgia defense made some adjustments at halftime. They made Spencer Rattler look like a third-string quarterback. Unlike the Bears, they don't make any halftime adjustments. Some of these teams that actually have talent and have actual coaches make adjustments at halftime. You saw that with Georgia. That's why they're the number one team in the nation right now.
Do what they're supposed to do. So we'll see what happens on that one. Michigan may have gotten caught looking ahead a little bit to that game against Rutgers next week. This kind of side, I should say 31-6 over Bowling Green. JJ McCarthy had 143 yards. Not, again, not his best showing, but look, they did just enough. Blake Corum had a couple of rushing touchdowns and 101 rushing yards. So, again, not the prettiest, but you'll take it if you're Michigan. You get Jim Harbaugh back next week, this just in time for conference play. So nice showing by them. Florida State, I know Jordan Travis got a little bit banged up with a shoulder injury. Looks like he's going to be fine. He should be good to go on Saturday. And but look, they held off Boston College. They definitely did. They held off there. But it's going to be interesting for me. And I think, look, if you're Florida State, you did just enough to kind of win that game. But it was close for a little bit. I mean, it wasn't the prettiest, but I guess these grinded out games.
Yeah, Thomas Castellanos was the MVP for Boston College, who nearly pulled out the upset. He has 95 yards in a touchdown in the rushing department. And of course, he had over 300 yards passing with a touchdown in the pick. But like you said, for Florida State, I did ask you at the beginning of the year, are they back? You said you didn't know. Right now, they're 3-0. They have the number 3 ranking in the country. We'll see as the ACC play continues for them as the season goes along.
Absolutely. We'll see once they do as they continue ACC and play. Texas, again, same thing. Probably got a little bit, kind of a letdown for them after their win against Alabama and Tuscaloosa, but they were able to pull away, I should say, from Wyoming, 31-10. Quinn Ewers, not his best showing. Had 2 touchdown passes, but it was Jonathan Brooks for the Longhorns. 164 yards rushing for him. So, look, he did just enough to kind of, again, they had a little bit of a slow start, but they were kicking into gear in the second half. So, give him a little bit of credit for that.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Wyoming played a tough game. I actually saw a couple of clips of that. Texas decided to wake up in the fourth quarter. They're at home. I can understand you get a little lazy. You take your home crowd for granted. You take the opponent granted, like you mentioned, but whatever switch they flipped on in the fourth quarter, it worked, scoring 21 points, which led them to the 31-10 victory.
Nice win for them against a pretty tough Washington team. Ohio State, no trouble with Western Kentucky, 63-10. Kyle McCord had 3 touchdown passes with 313 yards rushing. Travion Henderson had 88 rushing yards and 2 TDs. It was Marvin Harrison Jr. had 126 yards and a touchdown. Cash is his 9th game with 100 or more receiving yards. That's tying Chris Carter for the 5th most in school history. So I guess he's trying to make up for not getting a lot of catches at week 1 game. But look, I mean, looks like Ohio State's sort of getting better. We'll see what happens there. And so we got to talk about Illinois for a second. Penn State, although I will say Illinois did put up a little bit of a fight for a little bit. I mean, they did make it a little interesting early on, but I think Penn State said, okay, enough messing around. Let's kick it into gear here. Drew Allen had 208 yards and, Katron Allen had a touchdown, rushing touchdown for them. Also, Nicholas Singleton also had a touchdown, rushing touchdown as well. On the flip side for Illinois, Luke Ogmeyer had 163 yards, but he had 4 interceptions. So it was a defense for Penn State that kind of helped them win that game.
Yeah, like you said, Atwater did not have a good game on Saturday. That was the difference in the game as Penn State rolled on to that 17-point win. But Lakina, maybe it's just the Chicago fan in me. I don't know. But, when you're a team that comes out of nowhere that has a very good year, your expectations goes up for the next year. And right now, Illinois is suffering through that. And outside of Reggie Love III, who had a touchdown early in the contest, you didn't really see any fight from the fighting line. I'm not saying they didn't quit because they didn't, but just Penn State was the better team, and they played like it, especially in that second half. Illinois, as you mentioned, had a couple of chances to get back into it, but it was a turnover from that young quarterback which did them in.
Yeah, it just didn't look very good. I know our buddy Herb Warnes, who's an Illinois grad, wasn't very happy if he saw his tweets from Saturday. So, yeah, but, look, Penn State, quietly, I know people are talking about Michigan, Ohio State, but Penn State saying, hey, look, don't forget about us. Although I'm sure James Franklin probably prefers them. No one noticing them, so he might actually prefer it that way. But we'll see. Same in the Big Ten. Washington, no trouble with Michigan State. I know Michigan State, they're kind of in upheaval right now for stuff off the field. We won't get into it, but Michael Penix Jr. looked really good. He had 4 touchdown passes and 473 yards. And I think he only played like 3.5 quarters, so you kind of just chill for in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, just a really, their defense really solid as well for the Huskies. So yeah, I mean, look, you did what you're supposed to on the road. I'm sure the East Lansing was not easy to play, but they looked really good.
Yeah, the time difference to make a difference for the Washington Huskies. You mentioned with Michael Penix Jr., he could be a sneaky good Heisman candidate this year. Lakina, I don't know if he's going to get in the top 3, but he's definitely in the top 5 for sure.
Absolutely. So definitely need to look out for their Notre Dame, no trouble with Central Michigan. I know our girl Christine Manka is very happy about that. Alabama had a hard
controversy.
Yeah, right. Alabama had a very hard time against South Florida, 17-3. And they had QB issues for Alabama. Ty System got the start. He didn't look good. Tyler Buchner didn't look good either. It was really their defense. And just that South Florida kind of played sort of lackadaisical. I mean, they had multiple chances to put this game away and kind of like give Alabama a little bit, like a shock, but they weren't able to do that. So you look at that score, you think, okay, yeah, Alabama won, but did they really?
Yeah, it was a couple of turnovers by Byron Brown from the South Florida Bulls that did them in. Also, to believe that South Florida was 2 of 6 on 4th down, and in which they couldn't convert on a consistent basis to keep that Alabama defense on his heels. But it was all about Roydell Williams for Alabama. 17 carries, 129 yards in the rushing touchdown. Lakina, I think Robert Griffin III said this perfectly on the broadcast on Saturday. Until they can figure out their quarterback situation, you have to run the ball and play good defense, and that's what Alabama did to get their win on the road. Did they look their best? Absolutely not. Neither team did, especially after that weather delay. But Alabama made the plays, especially defensively, when they had to against a young team.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that might be the plan from here on out. So we'll see what happens with Alabama as the season goes on. Big upset here, and I did not see this coming. Florida beating Tennessee. Look, our buddy David Shealy from CBS 10 in Tampa said that, look, Tennessee, we don't really know too much about Tennessee. Well, I guess we don't really know too much after Florida upset them 29-16. Graham Mertz looked really good, 166 yards and a touchdown. But it was Trevor Etienne, and yes, that is Travis Etienne's kid brother. He had 172 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown against Tennessee. That's the third most by a Florida player versus an AP top 25 team in the last 25 seasons. This is also the second most rushing yards by a Gator against Tennessee in the program's history. So lots of history making there. And look, a nice win for Billy Napier and his Gator squad.
Yeah, you didn't see much from Tennessee's offensively late, but early on, Brew McCoy for the Volunteers had 5 catches, 94 yards, and a touchdown overall. But outside of that, the Florida took over in that second half, especially defensively. And there was some controversy at the end of the game. Lakina, please explain to our audience what happened. It was a kneel down. Then there was some players shoving, yelling, screaming.
Yeah, there was a lot of
I didn't get it. Maybe it's just me.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Mercio did the kneel down, and I guess somebody, I guess one of the defensive guys from Tennessee pushed it. One of their own Florida's O-line guys. They got a little bit of a scuffle afterwards. No punches were thrown, thank goodness, but you can tell that Tennessee was very frustrated after what happened. And of course, it was actually, like I said, their running game for Florida actually wore that front seven out. So I think there was definitely some frustration problem. That's probably what ended up happening.
Yep. Next game was the number 14, the ranked team in the country, LSU. The Tigers get a big win on the road in the SEC play as they beat the Mississippi State Bulldogs 41-14. For LSU, Mr. Jaden Daniels needed to have a good game. He did, 361 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. And for the Tigers, again, Malik Neighbors had 13 catches, 239 yards, and 2 scores.
Yeah, 80.2%. That was Daniels' completion percentage on Saturday in that game against Mississippi State. They actually held up well against the Bulldogs did, but Daniels actually kicked it into gear there, and that's the second most highest mark I guess for LSU player in a 25 attempts minimum. So a nice showing then there. But our buddy Mike Berman from MC5, we gotta get him back on at some point. So I know he's very excited about this. Mizzou upsets number 15 ranked Kansas State 30 to 27. 61-yard field goal by Harrison Mevis. That's the longest field goal made in SEC history, which is kind of hard to believe. But yeah, this is actually the first time that Mizzou has beaten as an unranked squad beat a top 25 team since all the way back to 1990, where they beat Arizona State. And this is a nice showing for that Tigers program. And they're quietly 3-0. Like I said, I'm not going to sit here and say they're going to win the SEC, but they got some pretty good players there. They'll go get some decent fits.
Yeah, Brady Cook, their star quarterback, had a big game, 356 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. Also to Luther Burton, the third, their star wide receiver. He had 7 catches, 114 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And so it was done through the air for the Missouri Tigers as they upset the Kansas State Wildcats. So 3-0 in the SEC, not bad with Alabama struggling, Tennessee struggling. Missouri could be one of those sneaky teams at the end of the year. Could you include them with LSU maybe challenging for that top spot in the SEC? I'm not going to say yes, but it's still early in the game.
Oregon State and Ole Miss, no trouble there with their opponents. Oklahoma, give them credit for going on the road and being Tulsa. No looking ahead for them, 6-17. North Carolina, I was a little bit surprised. I thought Minnesota was going to give them a game down there in Chapel Hill, but that didn't have been the case. Duke beats Northwestern. Okay.
Exactly. Talk to the hand if you're Northwestern. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Washington State, Wazoo, no trouble with Northern Colorado. UCLA, no trouble with North Carolina Central. I was scoring 41 points. Yay! I guess Louisville got the best of Indiana there. Baylor would now bounce back when against LIU. I know people didn't know that they had a football program, but come from the NFL, the NFL.com. He didn't think that LIU had a football program. They do. It's been around for a while. But Ohio, not Ohio State, but Ohio upset Iowa State 10-7. Should we be having this conversation about Matt Campbell over there at Iowa State? I'm sure a lot of Iowa State fans are wondering about that.
It should be at least on alert after that performance. I'm just saying.
Rutgers, no trouble with Tech. Yeah, that's very true. Rutgers, no trouble with Tech. FIU got the best of Jim Moore's UConn program. Let me see other games I note. Nebraska beat Northern Illinois 35-11. I mean, that's the best I've seen.
That was ugly.
Yeah, that was the best I've seen Nebraska in a while. So, I think they might have found their quarterback as well. Hendrick Harbord, 158 yards and 2 touchdowns. Passy also had a rushing touchdown as well. So I think Nebraska might have found their quarterback.
Yeah, you would hope so. Auburn had no trouble with Sanford, 45-13. UCF, University of Central Florida, they defeated Villanova 48-14. You mentioned Nebraska score. UNLV, they get by Vanderbilt 40-37.
BYU with a big win at Arkansas. They get their revenge from last year, but Arkansas had plenty of chances. I watched a little bit of this game. The end of this game, Arkansas had a lot of chances to pull away from there, and they couldn't do it. So a lot of people in Fayetteville not very happy at the moment, but we'll see there. And the Fighting Dave Kerners, as we call them here, the Syracuse Orangemen, they beat Purdue 35-20, although I think they lost one of their top running backs for the year. So that's a tough injury for them. West Virginia beat Pittsburgh in their backyard brawl. TCU beat Houston. Clemson no trouble with FAU. Kansas had to hold off Nevada, but they did just. I thought it was going to be a trap game for them, and it almost was. And Arizona no trouble with UTEP 31-10, and that is your schedule for week 3. Already we're in week 3 of college football. Said go figure.
Yeah, and go figure. And USC with Caleb Williams, they had the week off. Just a couple other scores. Oklahoma State, I don't know how good they were going to be this year. I know they're 2-1, but they lost at home big time to South Alabama 33-7. In the battle of the state of Ohio, the Miami of Ohio, yes, the Ben Roethlisberger, former basketball player, Ron Harper's school. They beat the Cincinnati Bearcats 31-24. The bad loss for Cincinnati. They'll host Oklahoma coming up this week.
A good Oklahoma team too. I don't think look. I'm sure they saw the score. They were kind of rubbing their hands on what Oklahoma did. So yeah, this is not the Luke Fickles guys there at this point. They got somebody else. I think they promoted somebody from within. And New Mexico State pulled away from New Mexico in their annual in-state shootout there. So yeah, so a pretty interesting game. It's not a good slate, but still a pretty entertaining slate nonetheless.
Yes, nonetheless, of course, TCU defeats Houston in that battle in the state of Texas, 36-13, as TCU gets back on track.
Yeah,
now they won 2 in a row.
Yeah, 2 old Southwest Conference foes battle it out there too. Yeah, that was actually pretty from way back in the day. So those of you who are over 35 will probably know what I'm talking about. The old Southwest these 2 teams played a lot there. But yeah, that is your schedule for week 3 of the college football season.
All right, Lakina, let's take a 2-2 break as you continue to listen to Second City Sports on the Monday edition right here in Sports Zone Chicago. We got baseball pennant races heating up, Lakina. A couple of teams clinched their ticket to the postseason dance. We have one division winner that clinched over the weekend. The Chicago Cubs, their playoff chances are on life support at best. And we'll have sports media news and old school TV Monday. Stick and stay. You're listening to Second City Sports right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I needed for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too. These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me something.
I finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports Zone. This Monday edition. We're live in living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakina who's rejoining me right now. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80.
You can follow my Keena McGee on the Twitter, X and Keena_McGee on the IG.
This is our last break of the show for today, so make those questions or comments great. If you have any last-minute questions or comments, you can go to Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comments section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you.
Okay, so we're going to be doing this rapid fire now. The Cubs lose a couple of heartbreakers. They get swept by the Diamondbacks, including the Sunday Nighter from last night. And unfortunately, now they're out of the wild card chase. And I was afraid of this. All the injuries and the middle relief and the relief, and it's just I don't know. I've got nothing. I really don't.
As I said before we went on air live on air today, looking at the division title, as far I think there's 14 games left, 14 games left. Yeah, you can kiss any hopes of a miracle finish as far as the division title goodbye. But they're still right in the thick of the wild card race. The Miami Marlins are within striking. They're right ahead of the Cubs right now for that third wild card spot. Of course, the Arizona Diamondbacks are right there. They're sweeping them in 4 straight over the weekend. And, of course, you still have Cincinnati hanging around. Of course, the Philadelphia Phillies are the leaders in the pack of that wild card right there. But for the Cubs, you mentioned that middle relief injuries there that haven't come through. The offense is still good, Lakina, but that starting pitching, like we said on Friday, you like the guys that are stepping up right now. Javier Assad and Kyle Hendricks, especially Justin Steele, was roughed up too in his start over the weekend. Well, I still have faith in him, but he was going to get his, excuse the expression, but I still have faith in him, so he's going to be fine, and he's just got to bounce back mentally, which I think he'll do. But Lakina is the back half of that rotation, like you mentioned, the middle relief with the injuries there is starting to get to them right now. And they got a pretty easy schedule, quote unquote, coming up this week. They start tomorrow in their series at home against Pittsburgh. They need to play with some urgency and play with it now.
Yeah, they do, and they've actually been playing. I think they like 14, like the 17 games they played Pittsburgh. So hopefully this is a get right series for the Cubs, and they can get things going here. And hopefully look, the Milwaukee took advantage. They played, they swept the Nets this weekend. Okay, yay! But yeah, I mean they were able to take advantage of it. Hopefully they can. I'm not gonna say they're out of it, but it's not looking good for them at this point. So it is what it is. But yeah, I mean, moving on. You want to mention your Sox? I mean, they did get one game against Minnesota.
Real quick shout out to Liam Hendricks and his wife, Christy, and of course, DJ Pauly D from the Jersey Shore fame from MTV from back, I can't believe I can say almost 20 years ago. They held a fundraiser last Friday in Lafayette in Comiskey Park. I'm not calling it that corporate name, to raise funds for the for cancer, and shout out to all the people involved, including the White Sox organization. But back to on the field, they were outscored 30-11 against the soon-to-be trashy division champion Twins this weekend. So the one game they did happen to catch on Saturday, Lakina, Saturday night. One, I wasn't there. You whoop-de-doo. They damn near blew a 7-1 lead.
Yeah, they did. I saw the highlights of that. Yeah, I saw the highlights of that. I was like, okay, yeah, that was that would be so Soxy if they had blown that game, but thankfully they didn't. They didn't. So thankfully they were able to pull that out there. Unfortunately, it ended up not making a difference, but they ended up still lost the series anyway. But it is what it is there. Now I want to give a couple of shout outs there from the rest of baseball. Congrats to the Orioles and the Rays for clinching playoff spots over the weekend, even though they were playing each other. I think Baltimore was their first playoff appearance since 2016, which is kind of hard to believe, but I guess it's not really. But it did it kind of in a dramatic fashion too. Of course, Cedric Mullins had a great showing this weekend in their series. against the Rays. They did win. They did split their series, so they're back to where they are. So where they were. So they lost the first two, but they ended up winning the last two. Couple of thrillers. That thrilling game on Sunday. So that was a really great showing there. Plus, a nice solid showing by the Orioles. Now look, I'm going to cheer you hard for the Orioles, especially if the Cubs don't make it.
As you mentioned, Lakina, last Thursday, the Orioles had a 1-game lead over Tampa Bay when that 4-game series started. They actually gained the game with that split yesterday, so they actually lead Tampa Bay by 2 games. I think Baltimore's going to hang on to win that division, but as we talked about, Lakina, for the last few years, for the Tampa Bay Rays, this is the 5th straight year that they qualify for postseason play. And we talked about it a little bit with our guy David Shealy from CBS San Tampa last Friday. They play fundamentally sound baseball. I'm talking about the Rays. I know they had a heartbreaking loss last year in Cleveland in that wild card series, but they play fundamentally sound baseball. They're going to give you enough offensively, but the injuries to that starting pitching, unless something happens, anything can happen come playoff time. But the injuries to the key members of that starting rotation, i.e. Shane McClanahan, who's going to be lost for this year and next year with that Tommy John surgery, I think it's going to unfortunately come back to bite him in the butt.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the real thing here. And I think that if anything that kills the Rays in the playoffs is that lack of depth in the starting pitching. So we'll see what happens there. Also, congrats to the Dodgers. They win the NL West again, winning 3 out of 4 against my Mariners. But yeah, I mean, look, they win 8-1, of course, to clinch the NL West. So I think like the 50 years straight. No, I'm just kidding. They're it's like 36 or something like that. They won the West Division. So solid showing there. We'll see if they can keep it up. I know they've had some issues themselves. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with that. Of course, Atlanta, no big problems there. I mean, they did lose. They did get swept by the Marlins. So it's going to be interesting to see what their mindset's going to be, because they're about 4.5 up on the Dodgers for the best record. And if you clinch the best record, you'll get to host if you get to the World Series. So we'll see. There's going to be some urgency there with the Braves. So we'll see how they play this out the rest of the season, these next 2 weeks.
Yeah, going back to the American League, you mentioned about your Seattle Mariners getting swept by the Dodgers at home over the weekend. The rest of that division, minus Oakland, didn't have a great weekend either. No. Houston won at Kansas City yesterday, avoiding the sweep there on the road. Also, the Texas Rangers, they got swept in Cleveland. I know Cleveland technically is still in the AL Central race, 7 back, but they're 7 games under 500. I cannot see them making a miracle run with these next 2 weeks. And also, too, Texas, they lost over the weekend. So pretty much everything stays status quo. Seattle's still right there to take the title of the American League West. I don't know if they'll have enough forces to do that. They got to get hot and get hot fast. But I think Houston still has the edge there because, of course, we talked about Max Scherzer being out for the year for the Rangers last week. And they got to have some other starting pitchers like Nathan Eovaldi and Dane Dunning step up for Texas, but I think Houston still has a slight edge here to get this division title wrapped up.
Yeah, and they still have to play each other too, all 3 of them. So it's gonna be it's really gonna come down to those games. We'll see if they can clinch it, and perhaps one of those series could be left out in the cold, as the Blue Jays, they're starting to heat things up in that wild card. I thought that I kind of left it for dead, unfortunately, but they sweep the Red Sox, and everyone else around them didn't have good weekends, so they were able to kind of sneak in there and say, hello, everybody. You remember us? Of course, Matt Chapman had that walk-off to help clinch that sweep there against Boston, and they play the Yankees, and I think in New York, and we'll see if they can kind of put it away. I know the Yankees technically still have a shot. They're 6.5.
They're done too. Them and Boston are done.
Yeah, I think they got to jump out. They got to go get to a hot streak in a lot of teams. But the Blue Jays, give them credit. I mean, a lot of people thought including yours truly, thought they were they weren't going to get it, but they did just enough. They're doing what they're doing, and swept the Red Sox. Now they're back in it.
Yeah, we always talk about the surrounding team having a stacked talent, at least in the lineup from up and down their roster with Kevon Biggio and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. You also have Bo Bichette in there as well. But the starting pitching, got to pick it up with Jose Barrios, and you talking about Kevin Gausman in there as well. So their pitchers got to step up just a little bit more if Toronto wants to make it back to the playoffs for the 3rd time in 4 years.
Could be very interesting there. So anything else baseball related before we get to the schedule?
Boy. Like I said, the Phillies, they beat the Cardinals 2 out of 3 over the weekend. So I still think the Phillies are in the driver's seat to clinch that first wild card spot. But everything else is up for play. You got the Cubs, the Diamondbacks, the Reds, and the Miami Marlins, who swept the Braves over the weekend. I think it's going to come down to that last weekend of the season, and no team is safe. And so the pressure is on starting right now.
Yes, it is. And let's get to the scheduling real quick. We'll do it really quick because most of these games don't really have a lot of significance. But of course, Cleveland trying to keep their playoff race alive. I think they have that. I think that's the makeup game. Oh well, yeah, no, they're playing Kansas City as we speak, starting off their series. Minnesota and Cincinnati, Minnesota. That game's gonna be on FS1, the first game of that series. The Mets and the Marlins. The Marlins are still right there in that division, so we'll see if they can pull it out here. The White Sox start their series against the Nationals.
Who cares?
Yeah, right, exactly. Philadelphia and Atlanta. This is bigger for Philadelphia. Now, Atlanta, you got to wonder, are they going to try and kind of just chill a little bit? So Philadelphia, this is their time to pounce. Milwaukee and St. Louis, go Cardinals. Boston.
Adam Wainwright, tonight's starting pitcher for St. Louis, has a chance to pick up career number 200.
Yeah, Adam Wainwright. So I'm sure he's going to want to try to. I'm sure he would love to play spoiler for for Milwaukee. So that's going to be the thing there. Boston and Texas, Baltimore and Houston.
This is going to be a big series. I'm really looking forward to this one.
We are for both teams. Seattle and Oakland is their chance to kind of get things right. And Colorado and San Diego. And Detroit and the Dodgers.
Okay, this series are starting tomorrow, Tuesday. You'll have the Anaheim Angels at the Tampa Bay Rays. Shohei Ohtani cleaned out his locker Friday because he's going to have off-season surgery on the UCL. So if you're looking for Shohei Ohtani to play the rest of this year, it's not going to happen. He's a free agent at the end of the year. So Shohei Ohtani's 2023 season is done. Of course, other series that are starting tomorrow, as you mentioned, Lakina, earlier, Toronto and New York to play the Yankees. Toronto always does well at Yankee Stadium, and see if that trend continues. Also, to the Pirates and the Cubs, kick things off at Wrigley Field here in Chicago tomorrow night. And you'll have Boston and Texas. Of course, that starts tonight. The San Francisco Giants, they avoided getting swept by Colorado over the weekend, as they'll travel to Arizona to take on the Diamondbacks tomorrow. That's going to be an elimination series right there. So whoever wins that series keeps their playoff hopes alive. The loser of that series, you can go bye-bye. And the TBS game of the night tomorrow, Tuesday, will feature Philadelphia and Atlanta.
Yeah, so that's going to be interesting there. And the FS1 game for tomorrow, you've got the Mets and the Marlins. So like I said, I'm sure the Mets will be able to play spoiler for the Marlins. So they really need this series to kind of stay within strike. This is an NL wild card. So and that's your schedule for earlier this week in the MLB.
And one programming note, Fox Saturday Baseball will not be seen for this upcoming week because of college football. So Baseball Night in America is going to air on Thursday. Both games at 6:15 Central Standard Time on Fox. Most of the country will get the New York Mets at the Philadelphia Phillies, while others will get Baltimore at Cleveland.
Ooh, should be. I think we're going to get the Baltimore-Cleveland game, I believe. So should be interesting there. But So and I think I think I was just trying to see if there are any series that started tonight. But no, San Francisco and the Dodgers, they start their series on Thursday as well. So we'll see if what their mindset's going to be. Talking about the Dodgers. San Fran needs this more than the Dodgers. Although the Dodgers do have a shot of get into that for best record. So we'll see how their mindset's going to be. But it should be interesting.
Yeah, this is a do or die week for many teams hanging on like a string in the wild card races, especially in the National League.
All right. So you listen to Second City Sports on Sports on Chicago. Lakina McGee, Sydney Brown with you. Anything else before we go into Old School TV Monday?
Oh, yes, a couple of sports media nuggets here. I know you interviewed this guy a couple of years ago. The son of Ian Eagle, Mr. Noah Eagle, who's a Big Ten TV voice for NBC Saturday night. Of course, he called the Los Angeles Clippers games on the radio the past couple of seasons. He will join his father in calling 10 Brooklyn Nets games for this upcoming 2023-2024 season. Noah Eagle will make his debut on the Yes Network Saturday, December 2nd, as the Brooklyn Nets host the Orlando Magic.
if you listen to him, both of them, you think they're both the same person. Like you listen to him, you would think you're listening to his father, only a little bit younger. So they should do a podcast together. But I'm sure Noah will like, not ain't happening. I'm sure I will say the same thing, like not a chance. So, but it should be fun though. All the people in the S Network you're very lucky. So to have those two. But yeah, that should be fun.
Yeah. So Noah Eagle will call 10 games for the Brooklyn Nets this year on the Yes Network next to his father, and Sarah Kusas, Chicago's very own.
Yeah, he had interviewed Sarah too a couple years ago. Great person, awesome analyst. So yeah, that should be fun. That camaraderie should be interesting. I know Sarah's gonna know how Ian's wife feels on a regular basis.
Yeah, hope we can get her on this program as the season kicks off.
Well, hopefully we can.
Tell Sarah.
So, yeah, that should be. Yeah, hopefully Noah too. We gotta see if we can get Noah on the show too as well. Anything else?
Oh yes, Monday Night Football. All but 3 games will be broadcast on ABC and ESPN for the rest of the season because of the writers' strike, with the exception of tonight's New Orleans Carolina game, the Miami Tennessee game in December, and it was another game I forgot. But all but 3 games will be airing on ABC this year. So Monday Night Football schedule, it'll be simulcast on ABC and ESPN for the remainder of the season due to the writers' strike.
Yeah, and I figured that was going to happen. Of course, they're gonna do this next year anyway, as far as the new TV deal with the NFL and ABC and ESPN. So yeah, I'm not surprised by this, but yeah, they got to fill the hour somehow. So and it looks like we're gonna be a lot of game shows, sporting events, and reality TV shows, coming up in the spring too. If they don't figure this out on both fronts, both the writers and the actors strikes. So.
Exactly. And speaking of Monday Night Football, they're going to have a re-imaging of the old 1981 Phil Collins hit In the Air tonight, featuring Chris Stapleton, Snoop Dogg, and Cindy Blackman Santana.
Yeah,
I want to see how they're going to do this.
Yeah, they actually had a little bit of a clip of it too. If you guys, it's on. I'm sure it's on YouTube. I'm sure you saw it on social media. They released it earlier, so it's gonna be a Chris Stapleton, Snoop Dogg duet. I mean, that's something I didn't think we needed, but here we are. So
Winning Time. It's in the second season on HBO. It's actually airing on HBO right now. The second season. Unfortunately, it's going to be the last because HBO has canceled that program. I think it's only 2 episodes left, and that's it. It'll be it forever. I kind of actually like that program.
I mean, you know how I felt about the program. So if I want to watch, we lived through the real stuff, so I don't need an embellished version of it, scripted version of it. So you know how I feel about the program. I know some people were very upset about it. I know Sarah Spain from ESPN, she was very upset about it. I'm sure other folks were upset about it too. But I'm like, well, look, you guys can go on YouTube and watch the Lakers Celtics series from 30 for 30. I mean,
that was actually very good. Yeah, that was actually very good. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can. I don't need to watch an embellished version of it. So, and plus, I'm sure Jerry West and Magic Johnson, I'm sure they're very happy about it. If nothing else.
I will say this: the actor who played Jerry Buss, he's very good. I forget his name, but he was very good in the series. Of course, Adrian Brody, who played Pat Riley, he was very good. And then, of course, Jason Segel from How I Met Your Mother series from back in the day, he played Coach Paul Westhead.
Yeah, but yeah, so I think it's another casualty of the writer's strike as well. I know that Jeff Pearlman was very
probably
yeah, I know he said that was the reason that the Rays were and lack of promotion too. So I don't know what can you do, but yeah, like I said, I'm not losing. I know some people are losing. I know you are too, but I'm not losing.
A little bit, but not that much.
I'm not losing for being canceled. Okay, look, we lived through the real one, so just go on YouTube. You can see the real stuff and the real versions of it.
One more question before we end it with Old School TV Monday. Have you watched any of the Inside the NFL episodes? Y'all know we're 2 episodes in on the CW. Of course, it airs on the CW every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Chicago time, locally here on WCIU. Have you catched any of those episodes yet?
I've seen.
And if so, what are your thoughts?
I've seen some of the clips. I haven't seen the show, but I've seen it on YouTube. I think it looks pretty good. I know Ryan Clark does a really good job.
Some episodes on YouTube already.
Yeah, and I see, look, I think people forget Jay Cutler is actually not a bad analyst. He's actually pretty smart, however you feel about his, politics or other stuff. But he's a pretty good analyst, and they have a nice little camaraderie there. But yeah, and also I think there were a couple guys from I think it was from Fox that actually wanted to do it, but they couldn't do it. I forgot. I think it was
Greg Olson was one of them.
Yeah, I think remember he said that on an interview he did that he was supposed to have done it. They wanted him to do it, but Fox told him no. I think there was another guy from Fox too that wanted to do it, but they told him no too. But yeah, I like this group that they have. I mean, it should be fun the rest of the season. But yeah, I really like it. So yeah, so if you guys do get a chance, check it out. The clips are on YouTube, so if you guys will get a chance to watch it,
yeah, they actually have a brother that does the NFL voice, the narration of the highlights. They actually let him show his face, and I love it, me personally. But Ryan Clark, I think, is going to grow into that role as host, of course, from ESPN and the Pivot podcast. I think he's going to grow into that role as being host. I know this is his first time doing it, so I'm glad he's taking the chance. So I think he's going to grow into that role. You mentioned Jay Cutler. Have no problem with them. Channing Crowder, he's the other analyst. And Chris Long, the former St. Louis Ram and New England Patriot, rounds out the analyst group. I like Chad Johnson personally, Lakina. He really livens up that group. And he's, if you follow his playing career, he told it like it was. He's his own man. He's actually doing he's co-host of the podcast On the Volume with Colin Cowherd's past podcast network with Shannon Sharp. That is very good too. So Chad Johnson really rounds out that group for Inside the NFL. The only thing that I don't like is unlike previous years when they were on cable, they do highlights from every game. They don't do that here because, they had to air commercials on the CW since it's on broadcast television. But outside of that, I like that panel. It's really more of like a players only type show, in which I think the league is going for. So far, so good. It's not perfect, but I'm kind of liking the style.
Yeah, it's good. I think it's gonna get better too. Like I said, I think one of the reasons why we don't show a lot of game highlight is because it's on. You gotta go commercial. You gotta make sure the stations pay their bills. So this is on network television for the first time. But I like what I'm seeing so far. I'm sure it's gonna get better.
Yep.
All right, sis. That time is time for Old School TV Monday. We do about this time. So, Sid, where are we going this week?
All right, let's stroll down the halls of Winslow High School in the East Coast and salute the old Fox TV drama, Boston Public.
Yes.
Boston Public was an American drama television series created by David E. Kelly, and it was broadcasted on the Fox television network. It was set in Boston, and it was a fictional public high school in the Boston Public Schools district. It featured a large ensemble cast and focused on the work and private lives of various teachers, students, and administrators at the school. It aired from October 2000 until January 2004. Its slogan was, "Every day is a fight for respect, for dignity, and sanity." Boston Public initially preceded Ally McBeal on Monday nights, became revered and received critical acclaim for its drama and ethnically diverse cast. However, Fox moved it to Friday night death slot for its fourth season. Viewership declined as a result of it, and it was canceled after the 13th episode aired on January 30th, 2004. Production halted after the 15th episode was completed. The final two episodes aired on March 1st and 2nd of 2005, later in syndication on TV1. Neither episode wrapped up any character stories. The title of each episode was a numbered chapter similar to that in a high school textbook. Each character appeared in a given storyline with professional and personal lives often intersecting. Boston Public was the winner of the 2002 Peabody Award from the Henry W. Grady College of Journalism and Mass Communication at the University of Georgia.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I didn't watch this during its first run. I mean, I've heard about it, of course. Some of the stars, of course, Jerry Ryan, who, of course, would gain fame later on. Being part of the Star Trek family in that series. Of course, Chad McBride, who played the principal, Loretta Devine, among some others, and Michael Rappaport also played one of the teachers as well. So Jesselyn Gilsing also played one of the teachers. So yeah, they weren't afraid. From what I heard, they weren't afraid to go to tackle some of the topics. They dealt with drugs, they dealt with racism. Of course, it's in Boston. Of course, Boston has a history with racism, so that was a really couple of episodes that they did. I mean, it was one of those shows that didn't really get its due because, like you said, they promoted a lot in the early years, but as the later years go by, I mean, they moved it to Friday. There was a lot of promotion when that happened, so unfortunately, it kind of faded into the distance. So. But yeah, I've seen some clips of it on YouTube. I thought, okay, this show had really good potential if they had invested in it. So,
yeah. Also, too, the starring cast included, former New Kids on the Block member Joey McIntyre. You mentioned Michael Rappaport. Also, too, Sharon Leo from the Tyra Perry films series from back in the day, and Rashida Jones. Yes, her father is the famous Quincy Jones, Chicago's very own.
Yeah, I think she played like one of the students on that series. But yeah, so so like I said, I mean, Boston Public again was one of those series that didn't. It was one of those Fox series, like a lot of other Fox series, didn't really get like a big audience, but it did get a lot of critical acclaim, like you said, Sid. So they weren't afraid to tackle some of the tough issues, like I said. But yeah, I mean, it was if only they had invested in it a little bit more, maybe it could have lasted like another maybe 10 years or so. But television's crazy at times. Sometimes the critically acclaimed shows don't get a lot of love. You saw with some of the Freaks and Geeks, shows like that. I mean, that was kind of
they don't get love till later. Yep.
Yeah. So but yeah, I mean, it's definitely like I said, if you haven't seen the show, I think is it streaming on Pluto TV? I think I saw it somewhere, or streaming somewhere. But I know a lot of the episodes are on YouTube, so you guys can definitely check that out if you haven't even seen the show. But you can definitely check it out.
Yeah. So just to wrap up on the on Boston Public, they had 31 nominations and they won 8 awards, including if I can get my computer screen up here, Jesus Christ. But anyway, they had over 31 total nominations from various awards and ceremonies, and they won 8 of them, including an Emmy Award for Outstanding Art Direction for a Single Camera Series in 2001, an NAACP Image Award. That was a Loretta Devine in 2001, 03, and 04 for Outstanding Supporting Actress in the Drama Series, a Peabody Award, and a Young Artist Award.
Yeah, so he has some really good, great actors from that show. Like I said, Sean McBride ended up, joining the Hawaii Five-0 not too long after the show ended. Of course, we saw the Rick Career Loretta Devine had, Anthony Heald, who I think played one of the assistant principal on that.
Yes,
series.
He did.
I know he's still acting. Yeah, I mean, look, it was Look, like I said, I mean, you may not have heard of the show, but I think you've probably seen some of the people that were on that show. So,
So for this old school TV Monday edition here on Second City Sports, we salute the Fox drama series Boston Public. Lakina, close us out.
All right, Sid. Of course, we're going to give a shout out to the Chicago Sky, of course, real quick, for they made the playoffs, but they went as expected. Of course, they got their butts kicked by the Aces. They lost 2-0 in their best of 3 series, so their season's over with. A lot of questions too. I know they got Clea Copper back for the next 2 or 3 years, but still a lot of questions there. Who's going to be their coach? Who's going to be their GM and stuff. So they got a lot of questions as they go into the off season. But look, I kind of felt like exactly that was going to happen. That they were not going to go far in the playoffs, but what can you say?
Real quick, do you think it's the Las Vegas Aces year to win the title, or you think somebody else is going to take it?
I mean, Atlanta. I mean, like I said, Dallas looks really good. I know the Liberty. I know if you're ESPN, you're cheering for Liberty Aces WNBA championship. So that way, people might actually watch. I know the Rays are actually really good, overall this season. But you got football, you got baseball. There are pennant races going on, so it's gonna be hard for the WNBA to get some attention here. But yeah, we'll see what happens. But I think if you're ESPN, ABC, you're cheering for Aces Liberty WNBA final.
All right, Lakina, take us home.
All right, you follow my Keena McGee on the Twitter, X, and Keena McGee on the IG.
You can follow yours Shirley Sydney Brown on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. Make sure you download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Make sure you follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And make sure you give War Media a follow on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube at WARR Media. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
Make sure you catch Second City Sports live and in living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago. One more again, as the kids would say. Catch Second City Sports live and in living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago.
And of course, you can catch Sports Zone Chicago anytime, anywhere on Roku TV. Of course, you can just you get the Roku TV app anywhere on your whatever device you have. Your laptop, your smartphone, whatever device you have, your tablet or whatever. Just type in Sports Zone Chicago, and you got all the shows right there for you. You got our show, Sean and Maya, the Smoke Villas, and I think What's Up Cuz. I think they're back on tonight. I know they're going to have a lot to say about the Bears to Bucks game. I know that our buddy Verner's going to be not going to be in a very good mood when they start.
Yeah, our guy Jason Pullman's going to be happy too, at least for his Miami Dolphins. They're 2-0.
His Dolphins. Yeah, I'm sure going to be talking more Dolphins too, I'm sure, tonight as well. So, okay, of course, make sure you check them out there as well at 6. Okay, so have a stay warm. I know it's gonna be a little bit warmer. Someone's gonna try to make one more appearance before the weekends because fall starts on Saturday. But enjoy all the baseball that's coming up this week. Hopefully the Cubs can kind of get back on track. And of course, if you're into the WNBA playoffs, you can check that out as well. So much sports going on right now. So you gotta love it. Also, Connor Bedard, 5 goals this weekend in those training camp games. So might be something we're looking up for. Might be a bright side here for Chicago sports fans. But for Sid, I'm the Kansas City Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago, and we'll see you Friday.
Holla!